Sports Matters TV.
Okay, guys, welcome to Sports Matters TV. I'm joined by a true athletic. He's a god when it comes to Cork. In Ireland, we know him all around the world. It's a small world that we actually both come from the same road, Harbourview Road. It's a famous road in the north side of Cork City. First of all, Mark, how are you keeping? It's been a while since we last spoke.
Yeah, fantastic, Jerry. Yeah, in Boston at the moment, dealing with the summer heat, but life is good and still very active in the running game.
I love it. Would you believe in Cork right now, Mark? It's about 23, 24 degrees. I know it's a shock, but it's really good.
That's good. You take it while you can get it, right?
Definitely. We definitely have to. Now, look, Mark, we have to speak about so much. It's an honour to have you on with us. We have to go back to the early days, obviously being a young teenager. How did running come about first day for you?
Yeah, well, I had a little bit of involvement with community games when I was real young. But I think, if I think about, all right, when did I guess, find running or running found me? It was at an inter-class race down in the North Mon. I was in the primary school at the time. It was 2 loops around the old monastery, up and around the lodge, and it was a cold, pretty chilly morning. I was wearing a pair of high-top canvas boots, and a lad from Groton, Declan O'Callaghan, won, and I chased him hard, and that was my first time, really, Jerry, feeling the sting, like the burn in your legs, the burn in your lungs, and in a strange sort of way, I liked it. And so that was really where it kicked off for me. I became very good friends with Declan O'Callaghan that day. And it kind of just went from there, really. I think I was in probably 4th or 5th class, I think, at the time. And but that was kind of the moment, I think, where I'm like, wow, I found something that I really like. I know that kind of sounds a little strange that, you're really, you're out of breath, but I enjoyed it.
And we have to ask, did you play any GA? Look, we know Vincent's was up the road. Did you play any bit of GA?
I tried. I was so small. I got bounced all over the place. So I kind of learned to, that hurling football wasn't for me. A little guy like me jumping into the air, trying to get a ball. I got knocked around by bigger lads, and so I was very lucky that I found running. Right.
Definitely were. No, we have to speak about Brother Dooley. I always remember going to the North Mon secondary school, and if there was any lads messing in school, Brother Dooley would always bring you to the canteen and point at your picture, and he'd say, look, that's Mark Carroll, right? This guy came to the school and he went on to great teens. Obviously, look, we know you did, but obviously the North Mon secondary school days were incredible, and obviously Brother Dooley spotted something early on.
Yeah, so when I went into secondary school, Declan O'Callaghan was a year ahead of me, and I kind of just followed Decky's lead. And yeah, as luck would have it, Brother John was stationed at the North Mon. He was sent down from Dublin area, I believe, at the time. And Brother John had just such a knowledge, Jerry. He had spent a lot of time in the US. St. John's University is where I think he did his doctorate. And he spent a lot of time with the track team there, and had just an immense. He was national champion actually, 1500, I think, back in the 70s. So he was a runner himself. Has dedicated his life to running and coaching, and went to the US. So we were very lucky he came in, and what an incredible motivator. Within a year or two of Brother John coming to North Mon, we were the best team in the country, and we were the best team in the country for about 10 years. I had a few years that I was there. But those years and after I left, Brother John created really a dynasty at the North Mon,
And people still talk about that legacy today in the North Mon, because the North Mon was known for the great hurling and the Harty Cup. But when it comes to running, people don't realise how elite the North Mon was when it came to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know exactly, but I think it was about 9 years that we won the All-Ireland senior cross-country title, when Brother John was there. And, those senior titles, Jerry, like that comes from, you got your younger lads, they go through the junior, the intermediate, then up to the senior. So, it's nurturing the different age categories. And Brother John was just incredible at getting lads to come out. We went from having just a very small locker room. We had to get a big locker room there over right on the side by the primary school. We had to get a big space, because, there was days after school, like where you had 50, 60 guys coming out to do cross country, and we're talking about doing cross country up in the fields where you're up to your ankles in mud. you know, and he motivated us to do that. And we, you know, it was just great. And we started to believe in ourselves, you know, and that was the thing with Brother John, is like, he kind of put you on the path, and then you started to grow and believe in yourself. And as a team, you know, we believe we were the best team in the country.
Definitely.
And we went and we ran like that.
And the facts have proven, the history, it's in the history books. Like,
Right.
Mark, we have to speak about, obviously, look, you made that big move to America in I think it was 91. How did that come about, and how was it approached to you that, like, you know, perhaps you should go and do this, you know? It was a big opportunity for you.
Yeah, so, you know, I also joined the Leeville Running Club in the city. So, you know, in the years prior to me going to the States, so like the late 80s, you know, we were hearing about a lot of athletes, Irish athletes, that were going to the US, taking up running scholarships at one university or another. Brother John, when he came in, as I said, you know, he had spent time at St. John's University. He was very familiar with the academic requirements, and, you know, you have to do a scholastic aptitude test, SAT for short. You know, Brother John knew how we needed to study for all of these things. So he started to plant the seed that, hey, you know, I guess you could go to college in Ireland, you know, or you could possibly take up a scholarship in the US. And he walked us through, you know, not just the training preparation for it, but also the academic side of it. And, you know, he held us accountable, you know, that when you go to the US, you're going to become a student athlete. And the student, he'd always say the student bit's number one, right? And so he was just a fantastic mentor. We watched a lot of fellas go over, you know, remember, Jerry, this is pre-internet. Yeah. So a lot of the information we were getting were newspaper reports from, you know, the Times, Independent, Brendan Mooney at the Examiner office, the Athletics Weekly magazine, or the Irish Runner magazine. You know, that's where we got our results. But we were seeing, you know, the likes of Marcus O'Sullivan, for instance, go to the US and have great success. Sonia was a little bit ahead of me with a lot of lads from Leeville that went. So we started to kind of think, you know, Declan and myself and other lads in the club were like, you know, this might be a good opportunity for us, you know, when we finish secondary school. And so what would actually happen then is coaches, as we started to get better, American coaches would start to write us. And back then, again, very different to how it is nowadays. Everything is, you know, electronic now. You know, they're emailing you and texting you and all that kind of stuff. We didn't even have cell phones. So you're getting letters in the mailbox, you know, glossy brochures from one university or another, you know, and of course they're telling you it's the best place under the sun, right? And that's where Brother John comes in then, because, you know, you show him, hey, this coach has reached out, that coach has reached out. And, you know, he'd be able to advise us, you know, what he knew about each school. And for me, you know, the Irish connection was very important to me. So it was probably going to come down to either Providence, Villanova, or maybe Arkansas. And Ray Tracy, the brother of John Tracy, he came to visit me in the summer of 1990. And he was home. He's from Waterford. And he came up for an evening, met myself, my mom and dad, and he offered me a scholarship. I was running quite well at the time, but he offered me a scholarship for the following year. And we walked outside the door there, 65 Harvey Road, and we shook on it. And that was it. A year later, I was in Providence, Rhode Island.
And obviously, no regrets, Mark. Look, we've seen, you know, there's a lot of your races actually on YouTube. I don't know if you know they're actually there, but you can actually. Yeah, they're awesome, but like it must have been, you know, a big show. Like when you think of Cork and you know the north side, and you go out to, you know, State Province and America in general, it must have been a huge culture shock.
It is a culture shock, yeah, but you know, look, Ray is Irish, right? So, you know, he's like having your dad away from home, right? And a lot of the team, there was a bunch of Irish guys on the team and a bunch of Irish girls. So really, you know, in terms of, I guess, settling in, it probably couldn't have gone any smoother, Jerry, to be honest, you know, when you have all the lads there. And so, yeah, it was good. And, you know, no regrets whatsoever. It was, probably one of the best 4 years of my life, you know. And, you know, you get to go to school in the morning for a few hours, and, you know, you train before you go to class, and then you train again in the afternoon, and you go to the cafeteria. Your meals are provided, you know, 3 square meals a day. I mean, how bad, right? It's like being at a training camp, but you go to class for a few hours a day.
I love it. I love the sounds of that. And obviously, look, there was huge success out there. We seen, you know, earlier on, you know, we knew you were going to do something big. Obviously, junior European champion. That was a massive feat out there. What was it like? Obviously, you know, the feedback home was obviously incredible. I know the echo were probably ringing your dad, you know, trying to get in touch with you. you know, the reports were great out there. Obviously, them 4 years were fantastic.
Yeah, I had good, I had good success. I won one NCAA title. Like the NCAA is incredibly competitive, and I won the 5,000 meters indoors, and I was second in the NCAA cross country. Cross country is probably the hardest one of all to win. And you know, time wise, you know, I ran 3:56 for a mile in college, and you know, which is pretty good. And so I had good success. You know, to be fair, I was difficult to coach at the time. You know, I was very, you know, headstrong, and you know, I'm just going to put my head down and run through a wall. And you know, I didn't listen to Ray to be fair. And we joke about it now because you know, I coached college for 11, nearly 12 years, and you know, I've had athletes that were kind of like me. So I joke with Ray about it. You know, I've apologized. Like, you know, I know it wasn't the easiest to coach at times, but we had great success, you know, team-wise, individually. Great 4 years, for sure.
Definitely. And like, we have to speak, look, we're going to go to 96, right? It was obviously a very tough year, Mark. Obviously, look, the Olympics, Atlanta, you know, I always remember people, you know, saying, look, 96 could have been a massive year for you. Obviously, look, you had the injuries. You probably trained too hard, as you've probably been vocal about over the years. But, you know, what was that like for you? You know, obviously a big year, injuries, you know, some setbacks, obviously seeing the light and saying, right, maybe I shouldn't train as hard as I am.
Yeah. So, so 96, I was in fantastic shape. Probably maybe the best track shape of my career. I can tell you what happened. I had a sore shin, and I had a history of shin problems, you know, shin splints, stress fractures, and that kind of stuff. And I had that when I was in college. But anyway, 96 was the year after I graduated, and I turned professional. So I was home in Cork sometime in June. I had like a really sore shin, and I went down to the Mardyke to do a workout, and it was 12 by 400 meters, and I ran them really, really fast. And I just knew the next morning, Jerry, you know, this is not good. You know, I mean, I was hobbling, walking. Turns out I had a massive stress fracture. You know, looking back on it, you know, again, as I mentioned, I was a little young, impulsive, right? You know, probably shouldn't have gone to the track that day. It was a tough few months, you know, missing the Olympics. You know, I had to pull off the team 3 or 4 weeks, I think, before. Few late nights around Cork. But you know, look, when I look back on it all, you know, I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot about myself, you know, that, and you mentioned, you know, about not training so hard. It was not about training so hard, because you have to train very hard. It was about knowing when to push and when to pull. And for me, I didn't get that when I wanted to run hard every day, very hard every day. And, you know, some runs, you still have to run your mileage, Jerry, but it can be very relaxed and conversational. And I didn't understand that back then. So what I learned from that was to slow down a little bit at certain times of the year, lay more foundation, aerobic type work, and then gradually get fitter. And then you get down to your really high training. So I learned that, and you know, what stood to me since then is, you know, I didn't make those mistakes again. And as a coach now, you know, I lean on those type of experiences with the athletes that I have. You know, like if an athlete comes to me right now, they got something going on, I usually give them 48 hours off or 72 hours off, and usually that does the trick. That catches the serious injuries from kicking in. So I learned a lot. You know, at the time it wasn't a great time, but I learned a lot from it.
I really like that. It sounds such an interesting insight, just to give that knowledge to the future stars of today. We have to speak about records, Mark. We know you like to break records. You've broken many records over the years. Is that something that obviously pleases you when you look back and say, right, look, I made that impact I was expected to make and I knew I could make?
Yeah, it is, Jerry. You know, look, championships are very important, and we can talk about that as well, you know, but I can't explain why, but, you know, through my college years, I just wanted to run very fast. And when I graduated, I just kind of felt, all right, you know, it's my time now, so to speak, you know. And I grew up watching John Tracy, Eamon Coughlan, Mark Sullivan, Ray Flynn, Frank O'Mara, just to name a few. And was just like, you know, enamored at just like the times that these guys were running. But, you know, by the time I got to that mid-90s, I felt really fast and really strong, and I just felt like my time had come. And I didn't want to be kind of defined or put in a box as like just a 5,000 meter runner. I wanted to do it all from 1,500. Like at one point, I truly believed I could break every Irish record from the 1,500 to the marathon. And I know that sounded kind of brash at the time, but I came very close, with the 3,000, the 5,000, and the 10,000. And I narrowly missed the 1,500. Ray Flynn still has it, and I narrowly missed John Tracy's marathon on the other end. But a lot of it, really, Jerry, I believe is the mindset. Like I believe that I could do that. I felt that I could do that, and I trained accordingly to break records. And I had fun doing them, and I think that's where maybe later in the conversation where I hope that we have youngsters that are thinking that way.
They have to think that way. Records are there to be broken, as they say. Obviously, Mark, look, Olympics were a big goal of yours as well. Obviously, you got to 2 Olympics. Very lucky not to do the 3, obviously, 96. But what was it like to see the open ceremonies, be involved? We all watched back home. I always remember being in a high house bar in Blarney Street, 2000. We were all there to support you. Obviously, they were great times for you. And, that must be, a great achievement in your career.
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. I mean, 2000 in Sydney, that night when I walked into the Olympic Stadium, it really was a bit of a relief, to be honest, because 96, as I got injured, had to pull off the team, and over the next 4 years, you're always kind of wondering, will it come good, and the Olympics is the pinnacle of our career in our sport, and it was a relief, to be honest, like, wow, okay, it's finally here. This is good. Now let's get down to doing the running, right? And then Athens as well. Athens, you'd seen it before. So I would say Sydney really was the highlight, walking into the arena there, and even lining up, in the semi-final of the 5,000, just special moment, I think in any athlete's career, really,
Course. And is it fair to say, look, obviously, being an Olympian, it's obviously, it's definitely at the top, but it's been an indoor European champion up there as well. Obviously, look, we remember the write-ups in the Echo, I remember the streets, the cars, beeping around Harvey Road. It was obviously another great time in that career.
Yeah, championships, I mean, you're known for the medals probably more than the records, right? I mean, the records will go, but you keep the hardware, right? So, in 1998 in the European Outdoor Championships in Budapest in Hungary, that was a special one for me, where 500 meters to go, there was still about 12 in the lead pack, and for some reason I just shot off the front and took a crack, and I led on to the finishing straight and nearly pulled it off, and 2 Spanish guys, Isaac Viciosa and Manuel Pancorbo, got me right before the line. I left one guy up on my inside, which is a no-no. But that was a special one, because, again, that was a moment where I just went for it. I can't explain why I did it, or it wasn't planned. I didn't talk with my coach about it. It was a slow tactical race, and I just took off. And I'm proud of the fact, Jerry, that I tried to. Yeah. I ran to win, and I got pipped before the line, but I came out of there with a bronze medal, which I'll always have. And of course the European indoors then in Ghent in Belgium was probably the highlight. Really, it's the only international gold medal other than the junior one, of course. But at a senior level, to win a European title was special, and that field in Ghent in 2000 was an incredible field, because a lot of the best milers in Europe ran the 3,000 meters indoors that year. They were getting strong for the Olympic Games later in the summer. So you had Rui Silva from Portugal, John Miller from England, and we had guys that were very good. And to beat that caliber of field in the championship final was pretty special.
Definitely special. Now, we have to speak of today, Mark. Obviously, look, you've been busy. I've always wondered over the years, what you've been up to. Obviously, I'd see your brothers around and stuff, and you're a busy man when it comes to, coaching the future stars of today. How has that been for you the last couple of years? I know you've been kind of around the place, but it's obviously a big honour for you to be doing that.
Yeah. So since I retired, I've coached college for nearly 12 years at Auburn University in Alabama. Spent 8 years there, and then spent 2.5 years at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. During that period, I helped out, some Irish lads like Mark Carroll ran the Olympic marathon in 2012, Mark Christie, and a few others. And more recently, Kevin Kelly, he just broke 4 minutes for time, 3:57. So I've kept active in the coaching, and then about a year and a half ago, the Boston Athletic Association had a position open for their high performance coach. So I decided to step away from the collegiate game and came to Boston. And of course, the BEA is known for the Boston Marathon primarily. That's the crown jewel. So I'm coaching a group of men and women now, 4 or 5 men, 4 or 5 women. They're a high performance team. They're competing for Olympic berths, World Championship berths, and also for the Boston Marathon. So on October 11th now, we have 3 or 4 of our guys will be running Boston. So I've been in the game, Jerry, in one shape or form since I hung them up myself,
It's been a beautiful journey. Is it fair to say, Mark, that was the plan? Obviously, look, you had a long-term vision. Do you reckon coaching was definitely for you? When you looked at your career and said, look, after the career, I'm going to go coach.
Yeah, I think so. And I think my experiences really help. Not just the good ones, like the bad ones, the mistakes. And it's good to be able to pass these things on. I'm cautious at times with the athletes because like myself, I had a tendency to overtrain and to push too hard. And I think one of the tricks of coaching is being able to recognize the athlete you're dealing with, their mindset, and there's a lot of athletes that tend to go over the top. And as I said earlier, it's knowing when to push and knowing when to pull, and getting the athlete to believe in the process.
You're needed back in Ireland, that's for sure. We have to speak of, look, the Tokyo Olympics. There was a bit of a drought, Sometimes we always say, look, boxing's our only hope when it comes to medals in Ireland. But look, it wasn't too bad, but it was an encouraging year for the Irish athletes. Mark, what steps do you think we need to make to get the medals in the future?
Well, we seem to be doing, better at some of the shorter distances, just kind of keeping an eye, we got some juniors that are running well in some sprints events and so on. But, Jerry, we were in a distance running nation, 25, 30 years ago. And, I mentioned some of it like Eamon and Marcus O'Sullivan, John Tracy, and Ray Flynn and so on, and the thing is, like, we've gotten away from that. We don't see many very good performances now above 1,500 meters, in Ireland. And Sonia, obviously, back in around my time, we men or women, we don't see many great, like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 performances. My hunch is that we're kind of leaning more towards shorter distances and getting more technical events. And I don't like to see that, to be honest, because I think we have great talent in our country. We have I think a lot of athletes that are fiery and willing to run hard. But I think we need to encourage athletes to run a bit more than what they have been. I mean, we have no athletes that are coming anywhere close to what Eamon, Frank, and Marcus and Ray Flynn and John, Sonia, nowhere close. I mean, so the sport has advanced globally. I mean, the depth and the times, and we're not keeping pace. We've certainly fallen off in the distances. One of the things I would like to see, and I don't know how much of it's going on, but when I was a junior, like I was on some national squads, and we had camps that were up in Dublin, Phoenix Park, and some in Limerick. So the federation, BLE at the time, Athletics Ireland today, identified 20 plus young men and young women. We came up to Dublin on a Saturday morning on the train or from wherever around the country. The Ashling Hotel was the staging point. So as juniors or juveniles, we got to meet with the national coaches. We got to meet with the senior team members. The late Jerry Coughlan was one, and I always remember meeting Jerry. The national team coaches would give us a talk on what it is to represent Ireland in the World Cross Country Championships. And you're up there with 20 guys. We go up to the polo grounds of Phoenix Park, and you get walloped. I mean, walloped. And, you know, you come back down to the Ashton Hotel, you have a sandwich and a bowl of soup, and we listen to more talk from the senior team members telling us about what the World Cross Country Championship is like, what it's like to represent your country. And then the senior management would talk, and then we go back up to the polo grounds, we go for an easy one, and then you get on the train and you go home. And what came from that, Jerry, was you got to know who your competitors were in Ireland. So, like, you know, you came home, you've learned a lot because you listened to the team coaches and the team management, and then you got to see your competitors, and you came home knowing what you had to do. And I'm not sure how much of that's going on today. And my personal opinion, and I'm speaking pretty much from a distance running perspective here, not sprints or any other area, but I think, you know, we need a process of identification of talent, bringing that talent together, and their coaches, their personal coaches or club coaches, bring them up, hear from the seniors, hear from the, you know, the national coaches, and drum up that, like, that national pride, that spirit, like, you know. And, you know, our World Cross Country team, and I keep referring to the World Cross Country because that is the greatest barometer of where we are as a nation in distance running. So if our juniors, for instance, in 1990, our men's junior team was 7th in the World Cross Country Championships. So my opinion is we should be trying to medal at the European Cross Country Championships. We should be striving for top 10 team in the World Cross Country Championships. If we can get to that place where we're putting teams in the top 10 in the World Cross Country Championships, I think we're going to see individuals then in the years coming performing at European track championships, world track championships, and hopefully Olympics, right? But that's the starting point, is like, you gotta have strong, very strong junior teams that can compete at the World Cross Country. We don't send teams to the World Cross Country now, Jerry, you know, and I question why. Like, why are we not sending teams? We need to know where we stack up in the world now, and then we need to have a strategy and a plan for us to get better and better and better. And like, why not go to the World Cross Country Championships? I mean, we would go, just to give you an example, we would go to the national championships, national cross country championships. And if you were in the top 5 or whatever, you would be patiently waiting at the mailbox, again, pre-internet, waiting at the mailbox for that brown envelope, Bala Clia in front, and you're waiting to be informed that you've been selected to run for Ireland. And like, you're pumped, right? You're like, wow, I'm going to wear the vest, right? And so my first World Cross Country Championships, just to kind of put in perspective, I was 2nd at the Irish Junior Cross Country Championships in Killinall and Tipperary. And you're thinking, now I was fairly young, but you're thinking, I'm pretty good. And I went to the World Cross Country Championships. This was 1989 in Stavanger, Norway, just after finishing 2nd in the Irish Championships. And I think it was 110th I finished. I certainly did not crack the top 100. And that's humbling, you know. You leave there, like, with an experience like where it's either going to make or break. And for me, it was like, this will never happen to me again. And I came home and I started doing 15-mile runs on Sunday morning with lads, you know, from Knocknaheeny out to Clogheen, Kerry Pike, Tower, Blarney. And I started training harder and harder. And a year later, I was 19. So I think we need to get back to that national structure, national squads, educated coaches, you know, and just building that team spirit. You know, we have to start somewhere. European cross-country medals, top 10 in the World Cross Country Championships. And then I think we're going to see individuals progress on to do well on the track and win us some medals.
Well, I agree, 100%. I spoke to a lady called Claire McSweeney. She actually got a scholarship to America, and she's involved with Leavell Running Club. And a question was put to her one day. Obviously, we have a lot of athletes that will base themselves in Ireland, but it was pretty much put that, you know, you have a better chance of progression if you take that scholarship and go to America. So do you think that's a fair statement, that, look, you know, there's more opportunity in America, perhaps?
Well, America's not for everybody. You know, some people are probably better off at home and being around family. In terms of structure and support, like I mentioned at the start of the conversation, the US system is tailored really. It's like a training camp where you go to school for a few hours a day, right? You know, you got your meals, you got your physical therapy, you got your hot tank, your cold tank, you got everything right there, and then you have the support of the university to fly you to the best competitions. So I'm a big proponent of the US scholarship system. It worked for me. A lot of our top runners that I've mentioned in our conversation went through the US system, including Sonia. The last big medal on the track really in the Olympics was Sonia, and she went to Villanova. So I'm a big proponent of it, but it may not be for everybody, you know.
Interesting times ahead, Mark. Now that you're retired, Mark, obviously you're coaching away, but are you still kind of running? Do you still obviously do your thing, and you're going to take part in marathons and stuff moving forward and stuff? Obviously, there's big goals still.
Yeah, I don't compete, and part of it is one, I want to put my energies into the athletes, and two, I'm just so competitive with myself that, you know, if I start racing and I don't like the results, I'm probably going to get hurt. so I do run, Jerry, anywhere from 6 to 10 miles about 5 or 6 days a week, and I enjoy it. And I have no plan. I have no structured training schedule. I go out the door. If I feel good, I hammer away, and if I just want to coast along, and I even listen to music when I'm running now, which is kind of taboo for a professional runner. But so I'm really enjoying it. I do it to keep fit and to enjoy it, and I can eat what I want, and
You've never aged. I must say, you look the exact same as you did 20, 30 years ago. You haven't aged a bit, Mark. So whatever you're doing is working.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, definitely. Now, we have to speak. Look, obviously, Mark, I know you haven't been home for a while, but obviously you're missing Cork and you're looking forward to getting back as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been just over 2 years now. I was home July of 2019. Of course, COVID happened then. So like everybody else, the world ground to a halt for a bit. But I'm hoping to be back at Christmas. And then my youngest brother's getting married in June, so I'll be back again. So I'll probably make up in the next 6 months or 12 months for what I've lost in the last 2 years, you know?
We're looking forward to having you back. As I said, look, you're iconic here in Cork. You're a East Side legend. When you're back, I'll try and catch up with you for a run, even though I'll probably be miles ahead of you. But I'll give you a wave from but it's an honor, Mark. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us, and we'll catch you when you're back in Cork.
Absolutely, Jerry. Anytime. Great catching up.
Thanks, Mark. See you in a bit.
Take care. Bye-bye.